Hi everyone. Today we're going to go through, finish setting up the YoraHome SilverBack 6060 CNC router. And we're going to pretty much just make sure everything's working, set up, functioning correctly. Set it up real quick in Easel and get it ready for your first carve. So the first thing we're going to want to do is, if you remember, if you're looking at my screen here, I'm actually going to just go over to the desktop for a minute here. You had the back of the your control box here. You've got your Z, your Y1, Y2, X spindle plugs, and so forth. What we're going to really make, well, those should already be connected first off. If not, make sure everything's connected up to the proper things. There's labels on the wires. On the bottom right, you should see a spindle / laser switch. Make sure that is switched over to spindle because that's what we're going to be doing today. You have your USB. Go ahead and plug your USB in. You can plug it into your computer. Just don't turn your control box on yet. And then, of course, you have your power cord. And go ahead and plug your power in. And then what we're going to do is install the USB drivers. So on your USB key that you received with the SilverBack, go ahead and plug that in. And then navigate to the drive. And you should see a folder that says Machine Driver. In the machine driver folder, you see another file, install Windows. Now, I have Windows. If you have Mac, you will do install the way that you would normally install a regular software. So for Mac, I'm just going to or for the, Windows, I'm going to double click. Screen pops up. Asks if you want to allow the installation. Just say yes. And then you'll get this screen. Click install. Should come up, say driver success. Good, clear. And then so now go ahead and turn your box on, the control box. There's a little switch on the back of it. And you should see the lights on the front of yours come on. Just as mine did, they should be blue. Right here, as you can see, they should be blue. If they're not blue, then I would just check your power stuff. But they should be blue. So then what you're going to want to do now is we're going to need to find out the COM port. So go to your start button and start typing in device manager. And you see as I start typing mine in, Windows comes up with a suggestion device manager, which is what we want. So click on that. And then on the left hand side, you should see one of the menu options for ports, COM and LPT. You're going to click the little arrow, expand it down. You're looking for the USB serial CH340. And what you need to note is what COM it is on. Mine is COM 6. Yours may be 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. Just write down what it is or note what it is because we're going to need it possibly in the near future. So, all right, so COM 6 is what we want. If you don't have that COM 6 or you don't have a COM port there, then maybe reinstall the driver again, maybe do a reboot of your computer, make sure that your USB is plugged in, check your connections, your USB. It has to be plugged in, it has to be turned on for it to recognize that there's something using that COM. So let's go ahead and close that. And I'm going to close this. And I'm going to go ahead and switch you back to Easel here. Okay. So go ahead and if you didn't already, create a free account on inventables.com. There's a link in our manual for it and instructions. It's really easy. You go to easel.inventables.com, create a free account. Log on to it, and your first screen should be like this here. It'll say, whatever here. Just click New Project, and then it should come up like this here. And what we're going to want to do is go to Machine and set up New Machine, and then Other Third-Party Machines. And then if you've not installed anything on Easel before, you're going to need to install the Easel drivers. If you did, you can actually skip this part if you've already used Easel before. But I'm going to click download, and instead of saving it, I'm just going to open it because I just want to open it and run it. Screen pops up. Do you want to allow this app to make changes to your device? Say yes. And then it says ready to install. Click install. Let it do its thing. Click finish. One thing I wanted to note is if you had a problem with it recognizing the USB, make sure your emergency switch is not pressed in. Make sure it's turned and popped up. If not, press it down, turn it pop up, make sure that's popped up. So now the thing that says enter your machine details comes on, and the machine type, we're going to just leave it as other Gerbil. Manufacturer, we're going to come down to YoraHome. And then the model, we're going to choose the SilverBack CNC. And if we have a dust shoe, you would click that here. I mean, really, we can always change it later. It doesn't really matter right now because we're just going to go through the settings. But if you do have one that you're going to put on, then you can just check that box. Mine's going to try and connect to it right there. Now, if it didn't connect to it, what you would have saw is another screen come up. Would have probably looked like, let me just show you real quick here, just so you'll know. Blah, 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 right there. So it would have come up and looked like this. And would have said, you know, that it can't find your router and so forth. And all you would do is when you choose the other model here, you would just check this box right here and put that COM port. Remember, we just found our COM port. Mine's on 6. I would have put 6. You would have put whatever yours is and then clicked OK. And then odds are that would have connected up to the machine. Again, if for some reason it doesn't find it, make sure the emergency stop is not pressed in, it's turned up. Okay, so now that we're here, what we're going to do is pretty much we're going to move the machine left, right, up, down, all the different directions. And we're going to use these check boxes here to see if it's working correctly or not. I want to make sure that you can see, which you can. Okay. So in my case, I'm going to go ahead and push Y minus. I use them, you know, forward, backward, left, right, but however you want to call them. So I press the Y down. It's great. Up is good. Left is good. 1, 2, 3. That's good. Now, one thing before you do the Z, if you notice my Z is all the way up. If I push up, it's going to hit my limit switch. So I don't want to go hit mine up all the way. Now, prior to you doing this, when the machine was turned off, you could have manually rolled this down, but you can't do it now. So all you got to do is just start with going down. So you see mine's going down. I'm going to press it quite a few times, and then I'm going to go up, because I don't want to hit the limit switches. If your machine is all the way one side or the other, just use the little rollers in the back and roll them forward and backward. Unfortunately, you can't do it when the machine's on, but it's really simple. If you just turn the machine off, change them all, and turn it back on, you should take over right where you left off. If for whatever reason your X and Y is backwards, like if it's going left, it's not supposed to, it's going right, and it's not supposed to, whatever, you're going to use the working correctly yes or no here, and that's going to correct it for you. So in my case, mine is working correctly. My X is going left and right the way I want because I'm looking at my machine this way is how I do it. Same thing with the Y and the same thing with the Z. And if yours is working that same way, then that's great. So we're going to click OK, and we're going to say, do we have homing switches? And this, we're going to say yes. And then it's going to start the homing sequence. Now, before you do that, one thing I want to make clear is that we're testing the limit switches, and we're testing to make sure everything's working. So take note of your emergency stop button. If this goes over to home one way or the other, or wherever it decides to go, and it doesn't stop like it's supposed to, maybe for some reason I don't have a great connection here on my limit switch, maybe I didn't put it together right, or whatever, make sure you're ready with this emergency stop button because you don't want to damage the machine. And all you got to do is press it down, and it'll stop everything from going forward. So I'm going to go ahead and click Start Homing Sequence, and it's going to go up. It's going to find the homing for the Z, and then it's going to go to the X and the Y. Now you see it's moving, and once it gets over to the end, I'm going to make sure that it stops like it's supposed to. You should hear the first click, and then it's going to come off of the limit switches, and then it's going to go real slow back onto them and then come off again. So it's like a two-step process. But if it does not stop and I hear it jumping or something, I'm going to hit the emergency stop. So make sure that you're ready with that. So it already stopped at the Y. And now the X, now it's going to go real slow. Click them again. And then it's going to come off. Okay. So that's mine. So that's great. So that worked good. So the next one is, do we have a Z probe? The answer is yes. And I'm going to show you something important to do here first. So we're going to say, yes, we do. And we're going to say, so what it wants us to do, how this works is, pretty much you connect up your clip to your oh, see, you drill bit. I can't think of the name of it. You want to connect up your clip to whatever bit you're using, and you're going to have this on the surface of your material. And then so when the bit comes down and touches it, then it's going to come back up and touch it again, kind of like it's homing, and that's how it knows how to where the 0 spot is. Now you need to also know the thickness of this, of the Z probe. Now I noted mine as 20, what did I say here? 20.25 millimeters is what I noted mine at. So, but one thing I want you to note first is we're going to just tell the software that it is attached, even though it's not, it's fine. And then we're going to just touch it ourselves like this. If you notice on my screen, it says contact. And the reason why I like to test this, if you don't get, okay, let me explain this. If you don't get contact on your screen, then something's wrong and you need to, unplug this, plug it back in, make sure that you have a good connection there. If it's not, make sure nothing's on here. And the reason why it's important for me, and I would say to anybody to test this exactly the way I'm doing it now, is because if you have some type of fault and you tell that machine to come down onto this and that bit hits it and it doesn't stop, it's going to continue going and jamming it into here, or it's going to jam it into your spindle, and you're going to damage one or the other. And that's what you definitely don't want to do. So that's why I like doing all this stuff ahead of time. I want to act like it's working. I want to act like I have it. I want to act like it's connected and make sure that it works before I damage something. So there's that. So mine is working. If yours is not working, then take it apart. Make sure that everything is all connected good. Now, there's another part here, I think it's advanced settings, is you want to set up your touch plate thickness. So in this instance, mine, I'm going to just put millimeters, and mine is 20.25 millimeters. Probe rate, blah, blah, and distance, all that's okay. And again, I want to make sure that it is, I have contact, that's good. We'll leave everything else the way it is, but it's important that you 20.25. There we go. I don't know what happened there. It's important that you set this because it needs to know the thickness so that it knows the distance between your bit and your material. And then click continue. And we're not going to run a test carve right now. We're just going to click finish. So this comes up here. We're going to say, okay, new project, blah, blah, blah. So right away, you might notice that the top right-hand side here is green now. Before it was blue, and now it's green. And that's telling me that it sees my machine, and it is actually connected to my machine. So there's your carve, and then there's the 4 arrows. I'm going to click on the 4 arrows, and then you should have your prompt to jog the machine around. Now remember, I'm going to remember one thing. This is all the way up here, so if I try to move it to the right, it's going to hit the limit switch. If I try to hit up limit switch or to the back, it's going to hit limit switch. So it's right away going to error out or trigger an alarm. So you don't want to jog it that way, of course. So I'm going to go ahead and jog my machine back towards the middle a little bit. And you could change the distance that it jogs. I'm going to change it to 1. And I'm actually going to change it to a custom down here of 3. So it'll go quicker. Okay, so now that we have it here, let's move to the next step. All right, now that we have the machine set up and it's working, one of the things that we are going to want to do is think about where we have our homing at. Now, so if you'll notice, my machine out of the box, my homing spot was that top right. That is not going to work for me because if I'm working on the machine, I'm going to put my material this bottom left right here, and this is where it's going to cut and blah blah blah. So if you're looking at my screen here at Easel, you see this 0 0 here. This 0 0 thinks the 0 0 is actually up there is what it thinks it is, and it's actually reversed. If you think about it, it's mirrored actually. It's kind of backwards. But I want my 0 0 to be right here. So if I'm on my screen and I'm like, I'm gonna, change this. So there's my square, and here's where the 0 0 is, or here's my 0 0 is, and I want to go up and because this is my homing point, let's say, and I want to go up and cut this. So what I'm getting at is I want my homing to be here, not there. So I'm going to show you how to change that, and so you can make it anywhere you want. One of my other machines, I actually have it. I look at it this way, and my homing's over here. So it doesn't matter. It's all preference. It's your choice. It's your machine. It's however you see fit. But I'm going to show you how to change it to suit your needs, and I'm also going to show you how to speed it up just a little bit. So there are 3 settings, and I'm going to actually walk you through it. Hopefully it won't bore you with it. It'll be real quick, but I just want to show you what they are and how to customize it for you. So if you are, let's see here, looking at my screen, I'm going to show you. They are commands 23, 24, and 25. So 23 is your homing direction. So 23 is where it's going to home, which direction here. And I have this actual little table here. I did this for you. So if you look at my axis config table here, so in my situation, I want the X to be reversed, and I also want the Y to be reversed because I don't want the X over there and I don't want the Y over there. I want them to be at the opposite ends. So if you look on my screen, the chart here, we are at value 0 right now, which is default. Nothing's changed. But I want to reverse the X and the Y. So my configuration would be 23 equals 3. Right now it's 0. And what you could do, I'll show you, is if you come up to your software, go to Machine, General Settings, Machine Inspector. If you look here, if you come down and look, my 23 is 0. You see that? So if I come over to my chart, my 23 is 0, so nothing's changed. But I want it to I want to leave my Z-axis alone because that's going up and down fine. But I do want to reverse these two. So now if you didn't, let's just say hypothetically you did want to keep it there. You would reverse the X, but you would not reverse the Y because it's already up there. So that would be, what, number 1. Okay, so anyway, mine is going to be number 3. So we're going to come back to Easel. And we're going to come into the console. Again, let me show you how I got here. We'll just come back. We're going to go up to Machine, General Settings, Machine Inspector. Come down here, and in the command console, we're going to put $23 equals 3, because that's what I want for mine. And don't forget the $, and it says OK. So now, if we come back, close this, I'm going to go to Machine, and I'm going to say Home Machine. And there we go. So now it's coming this direction, which is exactly where I want it. So that's perfect. Normally, like I said, if you wanted it someplace else, that's how you change it. So if you choose to. So while that's running, I want to show you something. There are 2 other settings here. One of them is 24 and 25. 25 makes it go as fast as, see how slow it's going over here, really slow. That's number 25. And then once it clicks and hits a limit switch, it backs off and then goes to click it again. That's number 24. And that's called, I keep saying the whole thing, the homing feed. And that one goes really, really super slow. You don't want it going super fast to slam into it, but it's just really slow for me. So I'm just going to show you how I do speed mine up. Right now it's actually running really slow to just hit that limit switch again. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and now I have it homing exactly where I want it. It's perfect. I'm going to go ahead and back it up off of my, whoops, sorry. I'm going to back it up off. So let's start with, let's see, I did all my notes here. 24 is the default setting is 25, and I like 150. So I'm going to show you here, machine, general settings, machine inspector. I'm going to scroll down. If you'll notice, my 24 is 25, and I like it 150 because, is that the right one? Did I say that right? I'm sorry, 20 I keep saying them backwards. 25 is 500, and I like it 1,000, and that's how fast it's going to move from point to point. So what I'm going to do, if you look at my 25 here, it's 500. I'm going to change it to 1,000. So I'm going to go in the console, I'm going to go $, 25 equals 1,000. Hit enter. And then I'm going to close this and then click home again. Now, again, you can play with your own settings. You could try 750. You don't have to change it at all. What you don't want to put it at is like 5,000, so it slams over. You don't want it to slam into this at all. I just want it to move a little bit faster, and you'll see. So if I click machine and click home, still going really slow. That's our 24 setting. We're going to change that next at the second click. So as you can see, it's coming a little bit quicker, maybe twice. It is twice the speed. It's not fast, but it's not slow. And now, see, this is the little part, the feed part here, and that is the setting number 24. So we changed 25 from 500 to 1,000, so it just moves a little faster, no big deal. And we're going to change 24 to 150. So right now the default's 25, and we're just going to make it a little bit quicker. So again, I'm going to go ahead and move my machine off. Oops, let me change this to 3. I'm going to move my machine off so we can see it. Okay, so we're going to go up to machine, general settings, machine inspector, scroll down, and I'm going to change, let's confirm, my 24 is 25, and I'm going to change my 24 to 150. So about 3 times the speed, 4 more than that, actually. And then, so now I'm going to close this, and now this should be how I want my machine set up. Homing here faster, a little bit quicker on the homing. So here we go. Now, if you go watch when it backs off, the second time it comes in, you're going to actually see it this time move. It was so slow before. But we're not super fast. Just that's how fast it homed this time. So as you can see, you can play with the settings, but really super important, don't go faster than what I have here because you don't want it slamming into the walls and jamming the limit switches for sure. So just a word of warning, you don't want to go super fast like that. So okay, so let's get out of that and let's go to the next step. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and back my machine up here. Actually, I'm not. I'm just going to leave it. Let's make, on the left-hand side here, choose one of your shapes, and let's just choose a star. So it's going to put a star in here. It's not very big, 1 inch by 1 inch, no big deal. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and try and do a test carve. All right, so before we do our first carve, there's a couple things other things we need to change real quick. If you go up to machine, let's go with edit your machine first. We're going to change this is spindle controlled by, change it from manual to hardware, and then the spindle from Makita to 24 volt DC spindle. The default RPM of 14,000, that's fine. I think it's like 12,000. It's not obviously going to go faster than what it could go, but we want to have it maxed out, so we'll just leave it at that. That's fine. And then we're going to click Save. We're also going to go up to Machine and then go to General Settings, and we're going to change the spindle. I believe the default was manual, and we're going to change it to automatic. If yours is at manual, go ahead and set it to automatic. Leave 14,000 is fine, and then just go ahead and close that. And now we should be ready to go. So we have our start here, and we're just going to leave it as it is. One thing I do want to say, though, is go ahead and take this nut off the end of your spindle. We're not going to put a bit in it. We're just going to have the machine run in the empty area and let it run and do its thing to make sure it's working before we tear anything up, just in case something's wrong. We're just going to simulate it. So in this case, we're just going to leave the star as it is, no big deal. We're going to say, sure, we have an 1/8 inch bit. It really doesn't matter. Okay, so now what we're going to do is go ahead and click Carve. And, we're going to just simulate this, so it doesn't really matter about what we choose here. We don't have to have any material, it doesn't really matter. Confirm thickness is fine, it's secure. Sure, the bit size is fine. We're going to use new position. Because we're going to want it to say, you're normally going to have your bit here. This is where the 0 is going to be. And so one thing, though, because we're just simulating this, what you don't want is, if you homed your machine, your Z-axis is all the way to the top. Right before you do any cut, it's going to want to raise the bit up off of your material. Normally, your spindle would be down onto your material, but in this example, it's not. So I'm going to jog mine down a little bit. So I'm going to hit the Z down or minus so that it doesn't hit my limit switch right off the bat. So do this if you want to do the same thing, just so it's down a little bit, maybe like halfway. So then we're going to choose raise bit. As you see, it brought it up a little bit. And then we're going to say turn spindle on, turns it on. Now, here's where you could do your adjustment on your control box. Speed it up, slow it down, wherever you want it at. And if it does not come on, while we're here, if it does not come on, of course, check all your settings and so forth. But one thing I want to show you is, if you turn it all the way down, it should come to a stop. If you turn it just a little bit on, you probably can't see mine, how slow it's going, but it's going to be spinning clockwise. Really, really, really super slow, so don't get your finger caught in it. If it's spinning counterclockwise, then you have these two wires reversed. Just turn the complete machine off. Don't do it while it's running. Turn the machine off, reverse the wires, and start over again. But as you can see, mine's going clockwise, so it's correct. Check your spindle. It's good. And then now we're going to tell the software that the spindle is on. And you don't have to have this on full speed, however you want to have it at. And then choose Carve. And now, hypothetically, it's going to think it is carving out our little star that we made. And that's what we want. We want it to run, do what it's doing. You can even turn the spindle off if you want. And so we know that everything is functioning the way it should. And this is great. Looks good. So while we're here, one last test is to hit the E-stop button. And one thing I want to show you, though, and I see some other people do, is if for right now, for whatever reason, I touched this on here, it would stop it as if it hit a limit switch. And that's why I always put this away. I see other people that have this just laying down there, and if it hits the ground or something, it's going to stop your cut in the middle of your cut, and pretty sure you're not going to be happy when that happens. So anyway, I keep this out of the way usually, but since this is running, one last thing that we really need to test is the E-stop, which should cut the machine completely off. So I'm going to test it. Perfect. shut it right off, which is what we want. If yours did not, that's super important that you let support know immediately, because that's a huge problem. That's what this switch is for. So I'm not going to turn it back on just yet. I'm on my screen here. I'm just going to click stop, so it stops the carve. And then now what I'm going to do is turn this till it pops up. And on my screen here, I think if I click the arrows, it's locked. I have to choose unlock. And then now, now you're back working again, so everything should be good. So that's good. We've tested everything. Everything's functional. I think you should be ready for your first carve. So yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. And happy carving.
Jungle.